Next question today is from Kayla. Kayla says, and this is always controversial when we go anywhere near a topic like this. Kayla says, David, should all transgender individuals inform their sexual partners before they have sex of their original or birth sex? All right. Let's see, Lewis, if we can speak clearly and have clarity this evening to channel Phil Davison in a way that doesn't lead to huge levels of hate raining down on the show. So, A, let's get this out of the way. Point A, are we talking about moral versus legal consequences? If the question is, should there be legal consequences to if you're a transgender woman who was born male sex, if you don't inform your sexual partner that you were born male but are now female, should there be any kind of legal consequences? Absolutely not.
I don't think we're talking about that. Of course not, but we're not talking about that because that would never happen anyway.
So let's see if we can explore this. We could come up with a very long list of characteristics which we could say these items, these facts are generally considered important to others who would be in a relationship with us, right? So if we say, okay,
and would we put that in this in that category?
And would we put this in that category? Well, yeah, I think we should. In other words, the sex of the person that one is with, I would say, generally speaking, is very important. Now, there's a different question, which is if the original birth sex of the person you're with is different from the one that they are at the time that you were with them, is that important? I think we just have to make a sort of social assessment. This is generally important to a lot of people. I think most people I know, if I said to them, if you were with someone who's transgender, if you're on a date with someone who's transgender, would it be important to you to know if, for example, although they are a woman, as you see them, they were born a man? Most people would say yes. So I don't think we can say statistically what counts as important. I think right now, based on society, nobody would deny that it would be generally considered important to people to know, to want to know, if the person they're with was born a different sex. Can we agree on that?
I can agree. Yes, I agree with that. And the follow-up question is going to be, well, Lewis, well, David, would you want that disclosure? Would that be important to you? And that's a difficult question.
The answer for me is yes. I mean, I would want to know that.
The answer for me is also yes. I would want the disclosure.
There's a very long list of things that I would want to know that would be sort of under this general umbrella. Now, let's compare this with something else, okay? Let's say you don't find overweight women attractive, okay? Should any prospective romantic partner who is thin at the time that you date them disclose that they were once overweight, even if they're currently fit? No, I don't think so. I think for me that wouldn't really make a difference. Is that something to you that falls under the same sort of umbrella? Just to come up with another characteristic or trait for the sake of discussion.
No, but I would say that I find that fascinating when someone who, when it goes both ways. When someone goes through a transformation like that.
So as a conversation topic, it would be interesting.
That would be really interesting to me.
Okay, but it wouldn't impact sort of your understanding of the person necessarily, although maybe it would. I mean, I don't know.
Well, it would impact your understanding of that person.
Yeah.
But how, I don't know. That depends on the individual. But certainly it would give you a different idea of that person.
Okay, so I think we can agree that generally speaking, based on where society is today, most people would consider it important to know if the person they are on a date with was at one point
the opposite sex.
The opposite sex. Fair enough. Now, why is it that that is important? Let's explore that. Well, yes, there is stigma currently associated with having sex with a transgender person. If we lived in a society where transgender individuals were not stigmatized in the way that they are, it probably wouldn't be as important to as many people to know whether they are on a date with someone that at some point was the opposite sex, right? So if there was not that stigma, it would probably be less important. But let's take it an additional step further. In spite of the stigma that exists, and in spite of the fact that most people would say, yeah, I would rather know if I'm on a date with a man and they used to be a woman, right? Generally speaking, people would want to know that. If you never found out, would it impact you in any way, right? I mean, if you really were, if there was not disclosure, but also you just never found out. Maybe it was because it was so early on in the person's life. who knows, for whatever reason you never find out, there would all of a sudden be no stigma associated with it. And you also wouldn't really care about the fact that you don't know, because as Donald Rumsfeld once said, you don't know what you don't know. Does that change the dynamic drastically?
If you don't know, you don't know. Nothing would change, right?
But
Nothing
so
would change.
my point is there still this sort of moral obligation in your mind, Lewis, to disclose if it is unlikely that the person you're with would ever find out?
Well, I would say yes, because you could say that about any number of disclosures.
Okay.
If you don't, if that not
You were
knowing,
once in jail for murder. Listen, it was in another country. A person's never going to find out.
I'm not a
gonna tell them.
murderer anymore.
It's not going to impact their understanding.
I'm actually your mother. I'm actually your sister. I mean, there are just, if you don't know, it's not going to, it might not change a thing. But I think disclosure is important no matter what you're talking about. Just be honest. Full disclosure is the best policy, right?
All right. Yeah. I mean, I am going to say that the place where it gets tricky is, what is full disclosure? What is on the list of disclosures that should be made, and what is legitimately not on the list of disclosures that should be made? What about if you had a very serious heart issue as a kid and it was resolved, but it's an issue that may recur or something like that? Is that on the list that it should be disclosed at some point? Should it be disclosed, I don't know, before you move in together? I have no idea. My point is, when we get into this idea of, I totally agree, people generally would want to know that. What else is on that list? How do we decide what is on the list of the things that must be disclosed and when? I don't really know.
Well, I think we just decide what is on our list.
Right.
Right? We can't speak for anyone else.
And you would want to know.
I would want to know.
Fair enough. All right.